Hi, welcome to Everbox Guitar Tuition. So, got another classic album inspection for you here. So this album, 1981, Frank Marino, The Power of Rock and Roll, his 8th studio album. Not actually released on August the 1st. I couldn't find a release date, but I chose this date because on this day Frank Marino played the Heavy Metal Holocaust Festival at Port Vale Football Ground. It was the only time this festival was put on. It had Motorhead, Ozzy Osbourne, late replacement for Black Sabbath, Riot and Vardis on the bill. So that's why I've chose that date. First time I came across or heard this album was just a few weeks after that. My brothers had been to the festival, Port Vale, checked out Frank Marino, like what they heard. And my older brother, we were on holiday in France and we visited a town called Angoulême. And we must have gone around looking for record shops and we found one, and he bought The Power of Rock and Roll. Those of you who've bought albums on import will be aware they come in thicker sleeves in Europe at that time, so it had that thick cardboard that we liked, a bit chunkier. I think we got it home that evening and there's actually a mono record player in the cottage we were renting. I think we had to listen to it then, which was pretty cool. So that's a little like background about how it came into my orbit. Prior to this, I'd heard a couple of tracks of the What's Next album via a compilation album called Kilowatts and an EP called 4th Degree Burns. So up until this point, Frank Marino, he's done his debut album in 73, Maxoon, 74, Child and Novelty. Then perhaps his two best well-known albums of the 70s, Strange Universe and Frank Marino, Mahogany Rush 4. Those made up a big part of his live set. Then there's the World Anthem album, his live album, and he did an album called Tells You Unexpected in 79, which is one side studio, one side live. So by the time of Power Rock and Roll, he was kind of building on the sound of What's Next, which had some more sort of straight-ahead commercial hard rock elements combined with his ferocious guitar work. So he went to Tempo Studios in Montreal, where he usually went with his band. There's Jim Iobbe on drums, very good drummer, and Paul Howard on bass. And his brother Vince Marino plays rhythm guitar on this. He was an addition to the band on the previous album. So what's the album like? So it opens with the title track, The Power of Rock and Roll. I'm just going to get the titles up here. So this is a great fun opener. It's just a good time rock and roll song. Frank's actually got a really cool voice. It's just kind of cool bluesy rock voice. The guitar solo in this is awesome. He just does a great high energy rock soloing on this one. His guitar style, like I say, it's kind of blues licks, pentatonic minor, but just played very high energy. Different from someone like Michael Schenker or Uli Roth, but it's that kind of thing. It's like taking the sort of staples of 60s guitar and energising it with more technique. So that's like the first track. The second track's Play My Music. It's just about 5 minutes long. Again, this is a really catchy track. The emphasis is more on the hook, on the chorus. Again, he does lots of soloing, lots of guitar solos on his albums. And it's a really cool second track. If I've got criticism now, I'm listening to it today, I don't think the recording, the production, there's not a lot of clarity on this album. I think the drums are a bit buried, the rhythm guitar's not much clarity. You can hear Frank's lead great, but I hadn't really noticed that before until today. But good stuff at the time. And then track 3, Stay With Me, again, this is just over 4 minutes. Some great soloing on this, really cool use of the wah-wah. And it's got a really strong hook on this. Actually, 2 has kind of got a cool chorus and there's a cool kind of pre-solo and post-solo bit, middle 8. And again, those first 3 tracks, people buying this album will be surprised by that at the time, because normally by this point there'd be some 8-minute epic with lots of psychedelic soloing. And then side 1 of the original vinyl finished with a typically long track that he'd do at that time, 7 minutes running wild. So the typical format of these Frank Marino tracks, he'll do a kind of 2-3 minute rocker, then it'll break down into a solo section, which usually lasts about 3 minutes, and then it'll spit back out, as it were, into what was before. So he quite often uses kind of jazzy chord progressions for his breakdowns, and he does that on this track. He does some cool solo. He does a cool technique where he plays very far at the back of the bridge, and he gets this kind of almost wah-wah phaser effect. It's very dynamic. So yeah, that's a side 1. The thing that stands out is the playing of the band. They're very much in sync with each other. Although, like I say, you can't hear the separation as much as like. These songs were written in the studio. He would just go in the studio, jam, get ideas, and that was, you know, even though it was kind of bad use financially of time, that's probably why he fell out of his record label. That's how the songs were worked up. So side 2 opened with Crazy Miss Daisy. This was more a filler track, pretty good fun, quite catchy. And it's 3 minutes again, 3 minutes 10. So again, it's like quite different from what he's done in the past. Then you've got the track Go Strange. This is like the Running Wild track. It's it's got a long solo in the middle. Actually, it's kind of 2 minutes long, and then you've just got 4 minutes of guitar solo. I'm not as keen on this one. Again, he does like a pretty crazy breakdown in it. And then a really, really cool album track at number 7, which is Young Man. This is, again, it's just 3 minutes 45. It's got a cool lyric about young men going off to war. I think that's another thing with this album. The lyrics are kind of more good time. This is kind of like the first lyric where there's some depth to it. Typically, Frank Marino, often puts, quite in-depth, things into his lyrics, probably on his 70s stuff. But like I said, the lyrics here are more kind of throwaway good time. But on this track, he kind of takes more serious approach. Really good guitar soloing, obviously, and it's a cool track. And then the album finishes 7 minutes track with it. They're probably the album's pièce de résistance. There, a bit of French reference there. Ain't Dead Yet. So this is a good lyric. Is about them, sort of the critics at the time. Obviously, electronic music starting to come in, and critics are saying rock is dead. They've been saying it for years, and he's saying we ain't dead yet. And he's kind of talking about going to the record shops, on the lyric, and what rock means to people in their life, and he's like saying, we ain't dead yet. It's got an amazing soloing in this. I think this track shows where he's at in the kind of pantheon of guitar at the time. So we're in 1981. Eddie Van Halen's made Fair Warning. Randy Rhoads has done Diary of a Madman. Michael Schenker's done MSG2. John Sykes has just appeared and done Spellbound with the Tigers of Pantang. Uli Roth's just a few the previous years released the Firewind album, and Gary Moore, don't quote me on this, I think he's done the Dirty Fingers album. He's done the G-Force album the year before. Basically, he sits in well with those guitarists. His style's got elements that those guys have got, fast pentatonic playing, energized pentatonic and blues licks. But he's kind of more bluesy in a way, and he's got a lot more jazz influence. Not as jazzy on this album, but pretty much albums before he would play a lot of Dorian mode and very, very jazzy lines. He's very good at that. At the end of this track, it breaks down in the middle and does a really quiet dynamic turned tapping section, and then it just goes to drums and bass. It's really cool. Builds up, comes back out, and the final solo he actually does an extended tapping passage, which competes well with, like I said, what Randy Rhoads of Van Halen and so on was doing at the time with that technique. So, not least the kind of guys in competition with other people, but, he can hold his own with what's the best of 1981 for me. Like I said, I can't remember, the record company buried this album. He didn't have a great relationship with him by this point. They did a terrible album cover. I liked it as a kid, but looking back, it's ridiculous, like cartoon covers, not befitting of Frank Marino. It didn't chart in America, so prior to this he'd had reasonable, a bit of chart action. He was quite popular on the touring circuit. He used to tour with Ted Nugent and ZZ Top in like 3-prong guitar bills. He'd done the Don Kirshner's Rock thing. You'll find footage of that online. So, and then he did recover a bit for the Juggernaut album again, and just under Frank Marino, but then he lost his deal and he just kind of withdrew from the industry. He did a kind of independent release album called Full Circle 86, and then came back in the noughties with fan power and the internet, really. But and he just did a self-financed kind of DVD live thing he spent years working on. But a guy always, beat to his own drum, didn't kind of follow trends, and, fell out of sync with the times, but I just doubt he gave a shit about that. But, if you're one thing I'd say about his music, it's a lot of guitar solos, if you like guitar, great, but, depends if you can stand, sometimes 3-4 minute solos. But I've always loved this album. It's always kind of more of a straight ahead listen for him. And yeah, really fond memories of that time, being away and being there when a record's bought and listening to it that night, and big exciting times in my life. I think I got back from holiday on the Saturday. That's a week off primary school. This is just finishing up with this French connection. So I remember we got back off holiday, and on the Sunday I went into Kendal, and the record shop was open there on a Sunday because sometimes things were in the Lake District, and I bought Rocka Rolla by Judas Priest. There you go. So that's it. It was some rock on holiday and rock when we got back. Okay, so that is 40 years, well, around 40 years of The Power of Rock and Roll by Frank Marino. So check it out. It's a great record. Cheers.